Hello, navigator. Skipper here. Nav lights off. Thank you, Skipper. Hello, Skipper. Hello, rear gunner. There's a Lancaster passing on the starboard quarter. Starboard quarter. How far away is the rear gunner? He's about 500 yards. Okay, just watch him, will you? Okay.
The former World War II airfield of RAF Dunholme Lodge was constructed on farmland to the southwest of the village of Welton and immediately west of the Dunholme Lodge estate buildings. This happened during 1942. It had the usual 3 surface runways and 36 heavy bomber dispersals, most on the south and west sides around the perimeter track. It was furnished with 2 T2 type hangars and 1 C1 type, one of which was in the main technical support area on the northeast side of the airfield. The bomb dump was on the south side, while the main area of communal sites was in fields to the northeast. In August 1942, the airfield, still under construction, may have been used by number 1485 flight, target, towing and gunnery, with number 5 group air bomber training flight attached from August to October. However, on the official opening in May 1943, the Lancasters of No. 44 Rhodesia Squadron arrived from Waddington, a famous squadron which ultimately suffered the highest losses of Lancasters in bomber command. In April 1944, a second Lancaster squadron arrived, No. 619 Squadron from Coningsby, by which time Dunholme was also one of the satellite airfields for No. 52 base Scampton. In September, both squadrons moved to Spilsby. The Lancasters of No. 170 Squadron moved to Dunholme for a few weeks in October to November, but when these departed for Hemswell, Dunholme was closed to flying, although remaining a satellite for No. 15 base at Scampton. This was followed by a period when it was used by General Aircraft for glider production, with the Hamilcar as the main type. With the war over, the airfield was quickly closed to flying, although it was retained in military hands. It was briefly reopened from 1959 to 1964 to house the Bloodhound missiles of No. 141 Squadron. After this, however, the airfield was closed, sold off, and quickly reverted to agriculture. We found that the intersection of 2 runways is an accessible place, where the remains of one runway is crossed by a modern road that runs along the course of another. We parked the motorbikes up here, having run down from RAF Hemswell, and having walked onto the former runway, sat down and had some coffee before starting the session. It was a hot afternoon, and insects were everywhere. I was in my yellow bike jacket, and little black flies seemed particularly attracted to this. We located ourselves on a sheltered part of the runway, close to the road, which was pretty much unused, and I immediately picked up on the presence of an Australian airman. We therefore began the PSB-7 session straight away, with all the settings at the usual 200 millisecond sweep, on FM and in reverse. There was just static coming from the PSB-7, no radio stations at all. However, almost as soon as we started asking questions, a number of responses were picked up, and there was that familiar feeling of my energy being drained away. The first response was to a question about what aircraft were based here, and a male voice came through saying, and then in answer to my question about what was the name of the airfield, there came a female voice saying, Mark had an excellent response with,
My name's Mark, this is Chris.
and then slightly afterwards he started picking up on someone to whom Sandy was an important name. Then I asked whether there was an Australian around and picked up on the Australian sergeant earlier. There was no reply until Mark commented that Australians weren't known for being shy. This erupted from the white noise of the PSB-7.
Australians aren't actually known for being shy.
No.
Are they?
Took that as a sign that the Aussie was still around us. Mark commented that he could see a biplane in a fawn colour apparently joyriding around. From the description, it sounded like a training aircraft. Only slightly later than this, I could see an Alsatian in spirit, sandy, with a black patch on its left haunch, which bounded down the airfield towards us and stopped about 10 to 15 feet away, just sitting there, as though it was accompanied by a handler who I couldn't see. And it just looked at us with its tongue hanging out of the left side of the mouth, panting, and periodically looking up at its right side, as though someone was standing there. At this point we finished session 1. The reason was to split the sessions into lengths of about 15 minutes each. Makes it easier to process later.
In a little while I'm going to stop and have a cup of coffee and...
We poured a coffee, sat quietly chatting, whilst being attacked by small black insects. And then we started again. Once more, there was only static coming from the PSB-7 until we started asking questions. No radio stations were being picked up at all.
Tell me your name. Can you tell us your name, please? Can you tell me your rank?
After a short while, with some responses from the 7, Mark picked up on a female spirit, possibly a nurse. He remarked that she looked like she was in nurse's uniform and there was a red cross on her hat. He thought that she had dark curly hair, wore glasses, and who received the name of Susan. Dunholme Lodge is a sad airfield. I think they are sad that there is so little of this former bomber airfield left. There is so little recognition of the part that bomber crews played in the Second World War. I'm glad that we went there and made some recordings.